Everybody, so as she said, I'm Michael Solomon. I'm here to talk to you about technology and social media and how, in my opinion, that could lead to the death of interpersonal connection and communication. So on a fall afternoon in 2011, Sharon Celine, mother of a daughter in college, she texted her daughter. They had a typical exchange that a mother and daughter would, of a daughter being at college, how you doing, how's school going, how's everything going? And the daughter said everything was fine, using nothing but emoticons, smiley faces to illustrate how she was feeling. Later that night, her mother found out that her daughter attempted suicide. She wondered how this could happen. Where did this disconnect occur? And what she realized was that not until 3 days later, she realized that her daughter had actually been sheltering herself in her room, crying, emotional, and she had no idea to know that because she didn't take the time to pick up the phone and know how her daughter actually was. While this disconnect happens, it happens all the time, and I'm here to delve more into that. So the agenda, I just told you a touching story about how this disconnect in communication could affect some serious crime. In addition, I'm going to talk to you about the significance of communication, some studies and shocking facts, the beneficial aspects of technology, the question of are we really becoming more connected, what this all means to all of us, and in addition, some key takeaways. So how we communicate. The only way that we can actually communicate with each other is through authentic communication. What I'm doing with you guys right now, talking to you, talking to each other, not through social media. And unfortunately, as the explosion of social media has continued to increase over the past few years, this communication has not only gone through the wayside, but we've become dependent on it, and we've used it as a way to put on facades and shelter ourselves from the reality that needs to be present when we're communicating with each other. As Charlotte was mentioning previously, only 7% of our communication focuses on written or verbal words. So that means every time we're talking through whether it's a social media communication system or through text messaging, we're leaving out over 90% of the communication equation. So in essence, when you're talking to someone through text and they say, I'm doing fine, not until you look into their eyes and you see that their tone isn't that they're doing fine, that you know they're actually not doing fine. Or when you're talking in a business situation with someone that say, you know what, I'm in on this deal through an email, how could you actually tell that they're in on this deal when they're not actually expressing their tone and talking to you in that way? So I found a few pretty cool studies on the topic of communication and specifically related to technology. So a few psychology professors at Maryland decided a few years ago to take 200 students, and what they did was they had them get rid of all technology for 24 straight hours. And they wanted to see the effects this would have on students. So afterwards, many of the students actually experienced symptoms similar to withdrawal symptoms that one would face whether they were a drug addict or an alcoholic. And to me, that's pretty shocking that just being without technology for 24 hours would make someone's legs shake or itch their neck or something that would be similar to that of a drug addict. And to me, that was definitely something to take note of. As you can see, one student said, I'm clearly addicted and the dependency is sickening. So that made them realize what technology is actually doing to us in terms of affecting our interpersonal communication. Another interesting study had to do with phantom vibrate syndrome. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with this. This is when you think you get a text on your phone, you take your phone out of your pocket and you realize the text isn't there or your social media update actually isn't there. This is actually something that happens to a majority of people at this Indiana University, Purdue, Fort Wayne. So it's not an unusual thing. This happens to people. It's happened to me before. You want the response, you need it to feel fulfilled, and as a result, your brain signals to your body that you actually are getting a response, even though that may not be the case. So now that I've pretty much dissed technology for the first half of this, I'm going to go into the benefits because it's not all that dissing technology. Obviously, we're all aware of the benefits of technology and the benefits it's had on our society, whether that be in medicine. We've been able to cure diseases like cancer and prolong HIV to becoming AIDS because of technology, and it's been doing great for us. In addition, the globalization of business is important. We can communicate with people all around the world, whether that's in China and different locations like that, just because of this new globalization concept, and that's great. But again, I'm not here to dismiss technology as a whole. I'm here to just make you aware of the effects technology could have on our interpersonal communications. So the question of are we really becoming more connected is a very interesting one, because when you think about it, we are becoming more connected with more people through LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. We're becoming more connected with more people around the world, but those connections are actually becoming less authentic and less important and less personal. And to me, that's pretty ironic. As we become more connected, we're actually also becoming more disconnected. So that's just another thing to think about. So what does this all mean? So when I was, when I was just picking this topic, or just why I wanted to do this, at first I started off just doing it because I got annoyed at a couple of girls, posting Instagram pictures of every meal they did. I don't know why it annoyed me, but it just did, and that's the way it is. But it means a little more than that, especially we're all about to go into the work world, and the percentage of us are actually, especially relating to interpersonal communications, are actually not that great. The people that we're about to enter the workplace with view millennials, people like ourselves, as deficient in interpersonal communication. We need to defy those odds, and we need to go in there and show them we could talk to people in a one-on-one situation, not just email them if you have to handle a conflict. And they also said that they'd expect us to email a person that's even 2 desks or across the office from you to handle a conflict that may be very important, rather than actually going over to them and talking to them, which is something that we need to do. When you need to handle a serious problem, like Sharon didn't know she had to do in the beginning, you need to call your daughter, make sure she's okay. You need to talk to your boss, make sure you know that problem is handled. So basically, in conclusion, I hope you take away 2 things from this speech. 1, just be conscious that there is a line to be drawn between when to talk in person with someone and when when it's appropriate to use social media or stuff like that. And I'm not here to tell you where to draw that line, just to be aware that there is that line. And you need to read your audience and figure that one out. And the last part is that life is a pretty beautiful thing, and we need to appreciate it. It's not about what happened in the past or what we think might happen in the future. It's about the ride, for Christ's sake. And you know what? When we least expect it, something great might come along, something much better than we even planned for. And if we don't stop Instagramming every food we do or Instagramming every moment about life, we may forget that and forget to enjoy that beauty, and more importantly, enjoy the ride. Thank you, guys.